Hello. Today we are playing Black Myth Wukong, a game that has several million people on Steam already enjoying, a ton of people disappointed because they thought it was going to be Elden Ring and it's not Elden Ring. But then someone like me who's more of a casual gamer, not into that hardcore stuff, I'm a couple hours in and I've been enjoying it so far. There's a few things that I don't like, but they're more sort of like personal preferences. But let's go over what I think about this game. I've been taking my notes as I play. First up, I had a pretty awesome intro. Really fun opening sequence. I haven't played too many games like this in a while, and it definitely gave me the kind of God of War vibes. When the God of War kind of remake first came out on the PS4 years and years ago, that was just a phenomenal game. It was that almost sort of movie cinematic experience that you come to love with some of these big AAA titles. Ragnarok, I kind of didn't really get into that, and I only really played a couple hours, but the start of this game certainly filled that bucket in terms of its sort of enormity and the creative aspects of how they put everything together. One thing I'm not a fan of though is the really exaggerated voice acting.
Immortality. For that word, all realms and beings have ruined themselves.
I don't know if it translates really well. I don't know, maybe that's just a personal preference of mine. I just kind of always find it a little bit cringy. You know, if my wife was sitting next to me while I was playing that, I'd feel a little bit embarrassed.
Rat, you call that a duel?
So I might actually try it in another language and just have English subtitles on. One of the other things that I noticed straight away, I said before, it's not Elden Ring. And I definitely noticed that immediately. I'm not a massive From Software guy. I've played the Dark Souls, I've played Demon Souls, and I've played Elden Ring. I didn't beat any of them, but I enjoy mucking around in them a little bit. But that was the first thing I noticed. You got through that opening sequence, you're in the forest, you have your first fight, everything looked amazing, and then I ran sort of off the linear path that's in front of you, and I noticed straight away that I couldn't climb a little cliff face right beside me, and I couldn't jump down into like a little valley. So when those things happened, I realized what type of game I was playing. Like God of War, like a linear path that you follow, and it wasn't a disappointment, but it was just a good thing to note straight away that yeah, this is not Elden Ring. The combat. Now the combat feels very fluid.
Our king has
I remember one of the first things I noticed was like even just my moving left and right and kind of the fluidity of it and how real it felt. Yeah, I think that was a really... The way you move feels very realistic, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There's no block, but you do dodge. And when you get that timing right, it's pretty satisfying. And I think that the way that the combat works, it feels very elegant. And even though it is very much like a button smash game, you can just keep spamming square and a few triangles and a few dodges. I find myself not wanting to rush battles because the environment just looks so good, and the movement looks so good, and almost drag it out a little bit, make it feel a little bit more realistic to match the way that the game visually looks. So I really like that. So yeah, I guess I would say so far I'm about 2 or 3 hours in. I've had a couple of early boss battles and it feels good. The one thing I did start to notice was that the combat didn't feel overly challenging, and I was almost thinking, oh yes, this isn't a Souls game, but the combat almost felt too easy, and I was almost questioning, am I supposed to have I changed like a setting or something like that? But I quickly found out that I was just facing these kind of like low-level ratty looking dudes that I can just spam square and they're taken care of pretty quickly. But I did eventually run into a couple more sort of heavy set enemies where I realised, oh, I've actually got to be a little bit more careful how I fight these dudes. And then I came across some big giant baby thing that pretty quickly dispatched of me. So that was good. I was a little bit concerned it was going to be almost too easy. It's got your normal progression trees, skills, your magics, all that sort of simple stuff. Doesn't seem overly complicated. I did have a couple of performance issues. I think it was after the first boss fight where you get your magic spells, and it was just some pretty significant stuttering. And when I actually turned on the performance overlay, I could see I was still getting like my 60 or 90 frames per second because I'm on the PC, but for some reason there was just some weird stuttering, and it left when I kind of left that environment, but maybe a few other people have had the same thing. Other than that, the performance has been really good, considering I've got ray tracing on very high, I've got maxed out settings, I do have frame generation and DLSS on, but it still looks amazing. I can't even tell that those sort of settings are on. A lot of the first person shooter games you can tell quite easily with the fast movements, it's quite noticeable, but I've found for third person single player narrative games, yeah, it actually works pretty well and you don't even notice. And so with that, my first couple of hours, or my first hour in the game was done, and I transformed into a cicada.
Okay.
Which was pretty funny, and flew around. I didn't really actually understand the purpose of that. Like, I think it was so you could sort of navigate the surroundings and look at some things and get an idea of what's ahead of you, but you can't like tag people and like other games where then you could see like there are all these enemies coming up. It was kind of just like you fly around, you can see what's around the corner, and then I just transformed back into the monkey and killed the people that were there. So I'm only an hour in, 2 hours in. Was this enough? Am I going to keep playing this game? Because I have a pretty extensive Steam library, a lot of games that I buy, pick up, and then don't really play beyond maybe the first hour or so. I suffer from that classic gamer ADHD brain. I think I am going to keep playing it. I read that the game's only about 15 to 16 hours long, so, or 15 to 20 hours long, and that seems like a good sort of length in terms of what I can put my time and energy into, or what can hold my attention. So I'm going to keep playing, and I'll probably do another video on this, or I'll probably do another update on, you know, how did the game go? Did I keep playing? Did I beat it? What did I think of it? Because these are just sort of the initial impressions, but I don't know. If you got disposable income, you got time to sit around, play some single player games, I'd probably pick this up. If you like God of War, you'll like this. Yeah, pick the game up, give it a go. And if you do it on Steam, you can do that whole buy the game, play it for 45 minutes or whatever it is, and if you don't like it, you can just get your money back. So I'd say definitely take advantage of that if you're thinking about this game. Alright, that's enough. That's my initial thoughts. Yeah. From just your average sort of gamer. Go check it out, see what you think yourself. Bye.